discussing understanding how a lawsuit works. So we'll cover things like what can qualify you to be able to take it to the courts. What do you need other than a lot of money? And I'm sure many of you have found yourselves in situations where you're like, I want to sue them, and then you end up not, because it's quite difficult if you're not super wealthy or have, lawyers on retainers. So Retha Fenter, who is Senior Attorney and Director at the IIE Varsity College Law Clinics, will join us for that conversation. Then our car feature, we're talking together with Thando Ngibe, Senior Manager at Budget Insurance, about what scratches and dents really cost. I've got a few that you just ignore because you're like, it's not worth the effort. But get in touch with us and get your questions in early. 011 883 0702. SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, 1 July, halfway through. Please let me know what you are doing for yourselves. How are you at this halfway mark of the year, or officially in the second half of the year? I want to quickly share something with all of you that sort of got me motivated and inspired. In essence, this woman is in her 50s and she's sharing to say, if the first half of the year was about resetting, regrouping, all of those things, let this last half of the year be all about all of you getting no longer resetting, regrouping, like just get into action. So if there's something specific you wanted to do, it's on the other side of action. If it's something that needs to be habit forming, whatever it is, it's on the other side of action. So she says, you don't need another podcast to motivate you. You don't need another motivational talk. You don't need another book. You don't need to watch some YouTube video. Whatever it is that you are supposed to be doing, get on it now. Action, action, action. So I just wanted to share that with all of you, probably because I'm trying to tell myself, girl, stop writing the to-do lists and do. Stop to-doing and just do. But let me know your thoughts. We'll chat about it throughout the show. Get your messages in and tell me if you've even decided to say, you know what, based off of how the year's gone so far, this is what I've changed. I saw somebody writing there saying first half of the year, it says buy a car. She edited it to say Cuphead. Huh? They say buy a car, you are buying Cuphead, not even a car. There's certain things that you have to adjust and find a new way. The other one says save 10,000. They scratched out the 3 zeros and said 10 rand. The other one said buy a new phone, and they changed it to say buy a new phone case, phone cover. Then live a happy life. They scratched out a happy life. They just said live. And the last one that initially was start my own business, they changed to mind my own business. And that's what it is with some of these goals. So I'm just sharing that with you and some of the things that I'm thinking about as we are starting the second half of 2025. There's still an opportunity for so much to happen because 6 months go by so quickly. But send through the WhatsApps throughout the show, and I will be sure to share them and sprinkle them throughout 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja.
702 afternoon spotlight edition with BBC Brit. Find your happy every night, and that's what we are doing. BBC Brit's drama slate is packed with mystery, charm, and just the right amount of chaos. And helping us spotlight the best of it is entertainment commentator and content creator Mbuyiselo Vilakazi, known for his sharp fashion take, celeb commentary, and must-watch TV reviews on TikTok and Instagram. Mbuyiselo has teamed up with the BBC Brit to share his personal happy time pics, shows that bring joy, escape, and just the right dose of crime-flavored fun on 702. Mbuyiselo, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Relebogile, how are you doing?
Listen, I'm trying to keep the energy of the new year, new me in July.
Yes, yes.
It is
And I
very
like what you just,
stressful.
I know, and I like what you just spoke about. People now, sort of, with the goals and stuff, from car to carport.
Yes, but sometimes it's not time for the car; it's time for a new carpet.
Oh my word! From business to minding your business.
Ah, before we kick off, Mbuyiselo, tell us a little bit about what got you into doing what you do as an entertainment commentator and content creator.
Oh, lovely stuff. First of all, I was studying. I remember I was studying in Cape Town. I was doing my master's in intellectual property law, which is something very opposed to entertainment, right? And then I used to watch TV, and I used to have a lot of opinions. I was like, you know what? Actually, let me record myself. Then I started on YouTube. My audience grew from then. Subsequent to that, I went to TikTok. People loved my reviews, and now I'm doing this full time. Hey, now I'm doing this full time, and I'm enjoying it. Honestly, I always love sharing my opinion on shows with people organically. I think, and also in a way that also resonates with people. Someone's like, oh, you know what he's saying is actually what was on my mind. I'm glad that he noticed that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Look, I love it for you, and I think the more entertainment commentators there are, the better for the industry as a whole.
Precise.
Because people will look to individuals like yourself to say, hey, if this person says go watch it. And there is a little bit of that culture that's gone. I mean, I recall the time when Barry Wronger was the person, and everybody was like waiting for the late Barry Wronger, may his soul rest in peace, to share all of those details. So let's then jump into what you look for in a great series.
A sense of sometimes a sense of relatability, not entirely, because I mean, you also want a show that is a great escape for you. Just watch something that is out of your world. Just sometimes a sense of let it resonate with someone, even if it's something that is not in their world, but someone is like, I actually relate in terms of why this person made this move. Of course, there are factors such as great storytelling, cinematography, how the story is written and executed. But I don't like a show that has a lot of theatrics. For me, the simple, the better. I prefer storytelling. It's telling that it's just effortless and simple. Not much theatrics and all of that. I just love a good
So you're
story.
Not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise?
You know what? That kind of a show I don't mind. Like sports shows, like F1, like
Yes.
recently, like those shows. I mean, that's the premise of what the show is about. I just mean, don't just keep it simple. Sometimes less is more.
I'm with you completely, and really it is. Less definitely is more. Okay, so now let's talk about you and crime dramas. Apparently, it's your version of self-care. Please explain, why are crime dramas your version of self-care?
So I think it started from because I studied law, right, originally. So I dealt with a lot of cases when I was in the law field, and you find that sometimes in the eyes of the public, someone is guilty, but the more you read the dockets and all the details of the case, you find that actually no, there is a loophole here. It's not as how it seems. So I think that's my love, actually, first love for crime drama. Just investigations. And I got to work also at the law clinic where we used to help people who cannot afford lawyers, and I got exposed to the other side. So I always love to watch that on TV. Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, in terms of crime dramas, are you more for the American style or the British? Because they're really not the same. And I think the Brits, they do really well in the whodunit genre. And it's got a very different pace. The American crime dramas, they do have a little bit more theatrics, if we're going to call it that. But I feel like I have space in my heart for both. But which are you feeling?
I'm all British, eh? I'm all British. I'm all British.
Love it, love it, love.
I'm all British. Because I think the Americans, again, theatrics, just a lot of unnecessary stuff. It's quite predictable. You know how a detective walks. They throw papers. What I like with the British approach to crime drama is it's very witty, funny, and at the same time, it's all about, let's get to business. The pacing is a bit slow compared to, the American crime drama, but they don't have all these unnecessary things. There's just drama, that is just unnecessary and that is quite predictable. But I love the British approach when it comes to crime drama, compared to the one in America.
Okay, now you've picked a few favorites on BBC Brit, from Beyond Paradise to Death Valley. Let's talk through some of them and what exactly you love about them.
All right, no problem. Starting with Death Valley, led by the incredible Timothy Spall. People know him as was actually on Harry Potter, Peter Pettigrew. I'm excited for this one specifically. So he's portraying this guy who's an actor. So the actor, all his life is portrayed a detective, right? And now he has to be a real life detective. It's one thing to be an actor portraying a certain role. I can be in a show. I can be a radio host, but it's one thing when I have to really host a radio show in real life. So from acting now, he has to really go investigate, and his colleague is actually younger than him. So it's very fun. The age difference. I like to say when it comes to Death Valley, they just a mixed matched duo, but also a great match like a match made in heaven, because they sort of complement one another, when they do agree, to certain things. So Death Valley is an amazing show, and the reception also in the UK has been exceptional. People are looking forward to see if there is going to be a season 2, because this is something different, that people have not seen. Yeah.
All right, Death Valley, from prime time to crime time. It sounds like something that we can definitely check out, especially if they have that dark comedy about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the common thread between in fact, with all these shows that I recommended, they all have banter at the same time. It's all about, okay, let's get down to business,
Definitely. All right, then you've also chosen Death in Paradise.
Yes, Death in Paradise, a beautiful story. So it's set on this fictional island, Saint Marie. So there's a new detective who comes from London, and he's there in the island to solve some crime. But there's a plot twist surrounding. I won't reveal, but there's a huge plot twist when it comes to the island, and it's something attached to his family that he discovers while working and serving the community. There's a huge plot twist there, so he has to make a follow. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. I would highly recommend it. But yeah, people must look forward to the plot twist. There's just going to be a very shocking plot twist that everyone's going to be like, wait a minute, this happened. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm nervous about this because this is season 14. I mean, how much catching up does one need to do to get up to date, ne?
You do not need to even catch up. Just watch the current season, because every episode there is it's like sort of your Law and Order kind of vibe. Every episode has its own case.
So this a standalone situation.
Precise. You don't need context from maybe the first season and all of that. No, you don't need all of that. So each episode is a standalone. There's a new case, so they don't even make reference to things that have happened in the past. So each case is treated differently. So I love that you asked that, actually. And then, I know you're going to go to Beyond Paradise. So Beyond Paradise is actually a spin-off from Death in Paradise.
Oh. So it follows one of the characters doing something else somewhere else, but within the same genre.
Within the same genre. So on season 1 to season 4 of Death in Paradise, there's this detective. His name is Humphrey. So he was on season 1 to season 4. Right now, he got his own spin-off because he was a fan favorite. It's called Beyond paradise now, right? So there was death in paradise. Now it's beyond paradise. So he's moved into this small town with his partner, and he also gets to investigate in the same sort of style from Death in Paradise. But it's in a small town, but this small town has a lot of secrets, and it's very mysterious, but also very witty and funny. People are gonna enjoy it. Honestly, this one is extremely funny. Yeah.
I literally am feeling like there's a very clear trend when it comes to some of your favorites. Based on those three, if you had to choose your number one recommendation?
I would say Death in Paradise. Death in Paradise, because I think if you like the Caribbean style, because since it's based in it's set in this fictional Caribbean island, the accent, the vibe, the people, people in the Caribbean are very dramatic, very dramatic in how they speak and how in their approach. I would say Death in Paradise, and I think the plot twist that I told you about is going to resonate with a lot of people, because it touches something that family basically. So people are going to be like, oh, okay, I actually relate to this, yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely try them out. And then finally, BBC Brit, I mean, they really have quite a variety of dramas. Right. Why do you think it really is becoming the go-to for shows that are feel good and that are gripping?
You know what? I think I love the shows on BBC Brits because they're not too heavy. You don't want something that's gonna weigh on you. You can't even sleep at night. Because even in real life, even if one is working you working in the police division, you still have moments where you get to breathe and have fun and make coffee and make jokes with your colleagues. You don't want something that is too heavy that you can't even sleep. So I like the right balance. There's investigation, but also again, you still feel good, man, after watching the show. And also you see yourself in these characters, and I like laughing. So I like good banter on it. So even if it's the theme could be, or the genre could be serious, but can we laugh a bit? Because even in real life, we all go through situations, but we always find a moment to laugh. In Zulu City,
I am all for laughing, and all the listeners will know that for a fact. Mbuyiselo can be found on the socials, Instagram and TikTok at Mbuyiselo Vilagazi for all he is doing and more, and all the shows that he recommended on BBC Brit, which is DSTV channel 120, Beyond Paradise, Mondays at 8 p.m. Death in Paradise, it is season 14, but don't worry, standalone episodes that you can watch Mondays at 9 p.m. and Death Valley on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Thank you so much, Mbuyiselo, for your time. Now sit back and enjoy with Happy Time Picks, your go-to spot for the best in feel-good viewing with a twist. Brought to you by BBC Brit. From brand new series and returning favorites to underrated gems you might have missed, Happy Time Picks dives into the best of BBC Brit. Expect special guest chats, clever quizzes, and unforgettable characters that keep the good vibes going. Whether you're after laughs, drama, or something totally unexpected, BBC Brit has your next happy watch lined up. Tune in, relax, and find your next happy watch.
Spend your afternoon
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
I was asking all of you about this first day of the second half of 2025, where you're at with your goals, how you are feeling about it. One person, Calvin in Doornfontein, says, hi, I'm at flowing mode, just flowing with life at this point. I'm tired for the whole year. I've been trying to upscale my business, but it feels like I'm not doing anything, but I'm not giving up. Calvin, can I tell you how many people will feel that? Remember, minuscule steps forward, you won't notice until you're quite a big step forward. So do hang in there. Hang in there. Hi, Relebogile, I can relate. I spent so much time in the thinking and planning and to-do listing stage until a friend of mine told me to stop overthinking and just get on with it. I registered my business end of May, and now I'm about to launch. Nice one for you. Relebogile, when are you planning to sing on air again? I still remember the morning when you left 702, and as you were handing over to Bongani for breakfast show, you showered the 702 audience with that beautiful voice of yours. that was very beautiful from Rizal. I'm not sure. For now, my voice needs to do the speaking while I still have it as I'm coming down with a flu of sorts. Relebogile, it's Bashi again, and I'm so glad we're halfway through the year. I'm super excited for the first half of 2025 was a journey. I can't wait to see what the second half of the year has to bring. Keep sending in those messages and voice notes. It's 1:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. The bail application for 12 National Defence Force members is currently underway at the Randburg Magistrates Court, where they face a dozen charges, including murder, kidnapping and theft. The group was arrested last month in connection with the murder of Hawks investigator Frans Matipa almost 2 years ago. Matipa was assassinated in August 2023 while investigating the alleged involvement of the SANDF Special Armed Forces in the abduction of 2 foreign nationals. Legal counsel for Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge has asserted that High Court Secretary Andi Swamengo did not fear authority as suggested by expert witness Lisa Vetten. Vetten is testifying before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal sitting in Sandton, Johannesburg, that Mengo may have experienced difficulty in rejecting the sexual advances made by the top judge given his seniority and influence. But advocate Muzi Sikakane has argued that the contrary may be true. During her evidence-in-chief heard in January, Mengo testified that she had an altercation with the court manager in 2021. And in Europe, sweltering heat conditions across parts of the continent have led to France, Spain, Italy, Portugal and Germany being placed under heat alerts. A red alert, the highest extreme heat warning, has been issued in France across 16 departments, including Paris, where the top of the Eiffel Tower is closed. 2 people have died in Italy as temperatures soar, while 50,000 people have been evacuated because of wildfires in western Turkey. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 2 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving Alex heading towards Rivonia, Sunning Hill, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N3, N1 North between Marlborough Drive and Rivonia Road. In Roodepoort, traffic remains sluggish on Randfontein Road heading into Leratong between Miles Stoker and Collett Avenue. Also slow-moving traffic leaving the Joburg CBD on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Look out for those faulty traffic lights, Edenvale, Modderfontein Road and the N3, as well as in Alex at Marlborough and Far East Bank. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Last year,
You laughed. You screamed.
you danced. Then you wanted more.
So, we listened.
Anele and the club live.
Is back.
And this time,
We're going even bigger.
after selling out in just one day
We're tripling the capacity.
and moving to the Sunbet Arena, Pretoria,
So if you thought 2024 was epic, round 2,
will be louder and even more unfiltered.
Saturday, 19th of July, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Live performances,
Surprise guests
chances to win big.
and all the club chaos you love for one night only.
Anele and the club live.
They run your mornings. Now watch them rule the night
Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.co.za.
before they sell out again.
No under threes.
More at primediaplus.com.
The National Lottery keeps creating winners just like the Lucky Powerball Plus jackpot winner who won over 25 million rand on Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 49 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday, and you could be next. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
What if I told you a day is coming where Africa won't need aid from the US or any country? A day when we'll be supplying food to the very nations that have supported us for generations. Let us build the systems that sustain us, the economies that nourish us, and the leadership that lifts us. This is how we use aid to create transformation. how we move from reliance to resilience. For Africa believes that charity is not aid, but investment. Investment in Africa's future. Together, we can invest in a future where Africa thrives, not as a place in need, but as a partner shaping the world's future. Let's act now. Visit forafrica.org.
What does extraordinary mean to you?
Is it being voted South Africa's most trusted enterprise telco 2 years in a row?
Vodacom Business helps more than 133,000 businesses with AI, cloud, enterprise apps, IoT, and security. One seamless ecosystem. Together, let's build the extraordinary that sustains today and protects tomorrow. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Further together, Vodacom Business.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
There were so many issues that arise from what these three are accused of doing at Transnet. What was really going on at Transnet at the time?
These three individuals have become the symbol of enabling corruption and malfeasance in the state-owned enterprise. I'm absolutely sure that they are not the only one, but they were the most high-profile.
Dr. Raj Abedian, CEO at Pan-African Investments and Research Services.
The Money Show
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Bank, a leading Pan-African bank and proud sponsor of the African Blockchain Report 2024. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Your voice.
Your life
Your afternoon radio.
on 702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
24 minutes to 2 o'clock. We have been chatting about it being the first day of the second half of 2025. And I just want to find out from all of you, how are you doing? Where are you at with your goals? If you set any, have you had to realign, readjust? Have you had to pivot? Doesn't have to just be career. It could also be around your mental health. It could be around your physical health. It could be around your relationship. Anything, keep us posted and let us know, because we do also get a little bit of a mid-year slump where you have to remind yourself, what we're doing. And I kind of feel like in winter for us this time of the year, some of us get into a go slow mode, right? Because you're tired, and I've always fantasized about being, those animals that go and hibernate like bears. They eat and then they just sleep for the entire winter and then wake up when it's nice and sunny again. But do let us know. We've got some of your voice notes coming through on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Relebogile Mabotja here. I really stand with the lady who says the second half of the year should be for action other than recalibrating and resetting and all, because you have all the tools that you need. And with me, the biggest thing for me is to make sure that in the next 2 months, I have everything ready for my baby girl who will be born in October. So I've already set up my mind as to what needs to be done. I've recalibrated all. And yeah, that's it. And also the goals that I've set, work-wise and personal-wise, I have to put in action, and I'm actually ready to do that. 1 July became a reckoning for me to see that actually now I have to put everything into action. Great show. Have a good one.
I'm so happy for you. Guys, that feeling of a new baby coming. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on the little one on the way. I hope mommy is healthy and safe, and so is baby. And we really wish you all of the best on this part of the journey. You're reminding me of when I was, had 3 months to go. I think at that time, my family was having an intervention with me, saying that I'm acting like I don't have a baby coming. They don't see me preparing anything. And they were trying to be like, hey, wait, now there's a baby coming. You need to start doing stuff. And I really didn't. And I'll have that conversation with you another day, because I was so terrified that I'm going to buy, cots and things like that for the baby, only for something to go wrong because of, the many attempted miscarriages that my body was going through at the time. But I'm so excited for you. That is so beautiful, and I wish you the best of luck. Here's another voice note.
Good day, Relebogile. Good day to you and the team. So it's Thabo Mageta here in Pretoria. So I have managed to take a break from drinking alcohol for 4 months since January. So that's one of the things that I think I've achieved. Yeah. And maybe from this month I can just take, a couple of drinks and celebrate that 4 months. Thank you.
Congratulations, 4 months without drinking. I hope you keep it up. And I think if you can go back and consolidate, do a little bit of a recon of what has changed in your life since you stopped drinking. That is a good way to look at it. Thank you so much for sharing. Keep sharing with where you are at on this first day of the second half of 2025.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Since February, flooding, sewage leaks, broken lifts, unsafe conditions have slowed property registrations to a crawl. So thousands of sellers are now stuck waiting for their money. How bad is the situation at the Joburg Deeds Office?
The surrounding area is not great, not safe. The building itself has many challenges. But having said that, I'm at the Deeds Office every morning, and I can categorically state that the Deeds Office is fully operational and open.
Carla Strader.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Winter's here, and so are the season's hottest deals. Whether you're powering through early mornings or cozying up on cold nights, Takealot is your one-stop winter shop for heaters, appliances, winter skincare, and everyday essentials. Shop smart, stay warm, and make winter your season with Takealot.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
With 50% off on limited Tennistown tickets, no wonder Amex card members are so thrilled. Enjoy a world-class tennis experience at Monte Casino between 11 and 13 July 2025. Buy your tickets for Amex Tennistown online today at howler.co.za for the Championships Wimbledon experience with the Mzansi advantage. Tennis is better with Amex.
702.
Tech feature.
18 minutes to 2 o'clock, and our tech feature for today, we're going to talk about careers beyond coding. And I think this is a big one, especially for young people who are really looking at getting into the space. We take your calls on 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 7021 702, as we are joined by Thabo Tsolo, who is the CEO and game designer at Space Salad Studios. Thabo, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks to yourself. Relebogile.
Okay, I am doing well. Thabo. So let's get started with what Space Salad Studios does before we jump into what careers are there beyond coding.
Sure thing. I forgot to say hi to the listeners as well. Pardon me. But Space Salad Studios is a video games company. We specialize in developing games based off of social commentary. And we use humor to break down some of the complex issues that we see in the world. We also create interactive experiences through gamification, where we gamify. Basically, we looked at 4 different industries in the event space: digital marketing, education and training, as well as the FMCG space. And we create gamification tools to create a new experience for your customers or your audiences.
Okay, so let's then talk about other types of careers. Let's touch on coding, where it's at it being so big, and then moving on to all the other different spaces beyond coding.
Cool. So I guess everybody knows, at least they should know what coding is. And I guess it's probably one of the key drivers of the 4IR movement. And for a lot of people, it's like if you could code, you're probably guaranteed to have a long-lasting career in this 4IR in the movement that we're currently in right now. But as far as like coding outside of beyond the tech space, or specifically in my industry, coding is very essential because you need a developer to put in the sound and the visuals together to develop up to the final product, which is the game, essentially. And without it, you probably just have like an animated video. But there are a lot of opportunities within the tech industry as well as the gaming industry specifically, where you don't need to be a coder or have any experience in coding, and you can still build a career for yourself.
I'm just wondering, in terms of skills, I want to touch on it a little bit. There are the obvious skills that a person would need to have in this industry, but what would you say are the skills that would be an added bonus if a person also happened to have those skills?
So as far as gaming is concerned, I always look at the core three, which is sound, visuals, as well as the coding. But what we could also extend it to is because, for example, my company, we are running a business. We do need accountants. We do need lawyers, we do need writers, people that are going to come up with amazing stories for our characters. So there's a lot of roles that one can consider that are needed in the company, as well as game testers. You'd be surprised, especially in the tech space, how badly we need people to test our new apps and our new games, because once we launch, you want to be confident that the game that you've developed is good enough for the market, and first impressions count. So you don't want to release something that is buggy and then people automatically associate your brand with low quality stuff. So those are like just some of the careers that the skills that you could potentially have within the gaming industry that one might not consider.
I'm so glad you mentioned the part, for example, accountants, because if I think about my industry of TV production, it almost becomes its own speciality to understand how to cost certain things, how to balance the books accordingly, with the industry being very unique, where now you need to explain to a person, instead of having to explain, no, when we use this terminology, this is what we're referring to, and that's why it's a cost of sales, or why this is a non-tax deductible, whatever the case may be. And I think it's quite helpful that you mentioned that, because it means that if there are people who are passionate about gaming but happen to find themselves even maybe in the legal world where they might be interested in coming into your space.
Yes.
So,
no, 100.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just about to add as well, just as much as legal is so important, because sometimes you do create art that might, question a certain topic, or that might highlight, like with us, we make games based on social commentary, and most of the times with our political landscape, people, you might be, there's a lot of gray areas, and you'd like to be sure that the content that you're releasing is not offensive to anyone, or it might not land you into trouble, so those are definitely skills that we need, even like producers as well, because we have deadlines ourselves, we need to make sure that when we set a deadline or target for the end of the year, we meet that target. So just like with, I'm glad that you mentioned what you do, like film and television. Some of the roles as well do meet, the roles that you have in film and television. We also have the same, like if you have, we need actors, for if we're using mocap for 3D animation. So those are the types of skills that we also need in the industry that are not spoken about, or not enough, at least.
Because also things like voiceover artist and the list goes on.
100%. I could speak for hours in terms of how many skills that we need internally outside of the three core major skills, but I don't think I have enough time.
Talk to me about, because there's also room for writers in terms of things like putting together storylines and building characters, which sounds super fun. And only now, as we're talking, I'm realizing how similar our industries are. It's almost identical, except for you have to create a world where the players can operate and decide what the characters are doing. In terms of designing, let's say in the gamification world, where you have all these people, from your programmers to your designers to your sound designers, your writers, all of those things. At what in terms of that process, who in the pipeline is the one that has the final say, the final sign off of, like, I don't like the sound of that gunshot or that sword, or I don't like the sound when these characters walk?
Yeah. So with gaming, it's a collaborative process. I wouldn't say like somebody has the last call. Obviously, we do have like our directors or the leads of the specific industry that you mentioned, whether it's the sound, whether it's the story. So those guys will potentially have the final say as to what comes out. But once the product comes together, I guess then that the whole team will have to come in and give feedback. You know, they will then, and as the testers as well, they'll say that maybe speed up this. It's taking too long to get to this point, or maybe this character, we've killed the character off too early. Maybe we can keep them for a longer period of time because we want to get the character arcs just right so that the player still engages with the game for a longer period of time. Because with gaming, one thing you must remember is it's one of the reason why it's one of the biggest industries in the world right now is because unlike existing traditional media, we can capture people's attention for a lot longer. You know, and we've seen it now when we've tested it out with your digital marketing. Unlike traditional digital marketing where it's like a static post or a video, with gamification, I can keep the audience locked in a lot longer. I can also entice the audience to share the game with their friends. You know, if there's a leaderboard, if it's like a co-op situation where you have to play with your friend, you know, and I can also capture important data because I've gotten you for this long. I can kind of we've already created like a relationship together, so you're more susceptible to, you know, sharing some of your data or purchasing a product because you now have made some form of connection with the game and the message that's being portrayed within the game.
You mentioned that the games need to be tested. Share with me what that means and what that means for the people that would be doing the testing. Like, is it an actual job or volunteers can come and give you feedback?
So it is an actual job. Countries like the US have dedicated people that they hire to test. But then there's also volunteers as well. You know, our industry is still starting out, so we rely on a lot of volunteers to come in and test the game. And what it usually looks like, it sounds cool at first. I guess in the beginning, it's not that fun because it's either you're testing for bugs. So if there's like a glitch in the code, or if the character keeps disappearing or gets stuck, which does ruin the player experience. So that's one of the things. So you're probably just walking into walls. You know, that's also another way of the role of a tester is if maybe the colliders are in the right place, and the collider is like an invisible wall that stops you from going through the mesh or whatever world that you're living in. So some testers have to walk through different walls, you know, for hours and hours at a time. But
so doing the same thing over and over again, and basically not having fun because it at some point becomes a job, right? Of like, please do it again, please do it again, please do it again.
Yes, because gamers are really smart. They'll break your game. They'll break it and then expose you online and say this is how you cheat the game or whatever. So we need to really make sure that whoever plays our game, it's really difficult for them to break it, you know? And that means that, and also hours, like I said, engagement is a big thing in gaming. So a lot of people be spending 80 hours a day, or not 80 hours a week, sorry, playing video games, you know? So that's like a lot of time dedicated towards doing one thing. And a lot could happen in that space. So with testers, they're really key in like the whole development of the product, because within that they'll know where the game breaks, and then we can fix it as the devs and have a proper product.
Please share with us what are some of the games that are accessible right now that the listeners can already start to test out, that they can know actually this is a South African game.
Well, you can, I guess for starters, since I'm here, you can check out our games. You can go to our website or go to our social media at Space Salad ZA, and it'll link you to our website at spacesaladstudios.com. We're on Steam. We're also on the App Store and the Android store. We've actually worked on a game with Zapiro where you can play your favorite political leader, and we've personified the social ills. Yes.
Oh my gosh. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's called POO Weekly. It's an acronym for Point of Order.
Yes,
so
yes.
You can check it out. But there's also studios like Free Lives, which is one of the biggest. You can get the games on PlayStation, Xbox. But those are like complete games. But if you want to like become a tester, I think you can also reach out to us on our social media page. And if there are openings, because we're always working on new games and new products, and we're looking for people to come in and break them so that we can fix them. And that's the whole thing with dev, is you always have to like fix things, and yeah. But as far as like our games, you can find them on our platform. But if they wanna test, then they can hit us up as well on our social media, and then we can take it from there.
I'm sure so many people would be absolutely excited to come and test, but they better be avid gamers so that you are able to walk away with what you need. To spacesaladstudios.com or Space Salad ZA on all of social media. Tabo, thank you for chatting to us on our tech feature.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
There appears to be the normal money soldiers are paid. Then there is the money they're paid by way of allowances when they're on assignment in a foreign country. And then money paid to the SANDF for the execution of this mission. Can you break it down for us as to what should have been the reasonable expectation of a soldier sent in South Africa's name to Goma?
The soldier gets his or her normal salary. The second thing is a certain number of allowances in terms of Defence Force policy kicks in when one is in the deployment area.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Get ready for the 26th edition of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. 3 memorable days from the 26th to the 28th of September across 4 spectacular stages of the Sandton Convention Centre. Join over 50 incredible world-renowned stars like Esperanza Spalding, The Baylor Project, Andile Yenana, Treso, Jose James, Benjamin Jefton, Umfundo Kaluva, Mondli Ngobo, Alune Wade, and others on a musical journey deep into the heart and art of jazz. Take me there. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
You could smash that snooze button for the 7th time. Or you could grab the new Berry Blue sports drink from Aquila Vive and get moving. Blue has never tasted so good. Bursting with bold berry flavor, packed with electrolytes and vitamins, and free from colorants. Aquila Vive sports and power drinks. Let's move.
Beyond politics.
Didi, I'm not going anywhere.
It's honest conversations with politicians and newsmakers on Polydrinking with Sidi Madia on EWN. It gets heavy.
Even in losing the election in Polokwane, people regret Zuma. They don't regret not backing Mbeki.
Me, I don't regret nothing. Because he gave people a sword to stab him with.
Yeah.
It gets personal.
There's a tendency to paint the entire GNU with the whims and the feelings of the DA at any particular moment. It is not a fact.
It gets to their truth.
If you check the videos, it started coming like organically on the ground. Random leaders of the FF Children's Command saying, no man, this Floyd must go away.
You call him VBS Floyd, don't you?
Yeah, it's VBS Floyd.
Why is Julius Malema not VBS
but the
Malema?
president was cleared by parliament, guys.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You're defending even Floyd Shivambuni who's in the EFF from VBS. Suddenly it's VBS Floyd.
No, I never defended.
Catch a new episode every Wednesday on PrimeMediaPlus.com. Polytricking with Sidi Madia on EWN.
On record,
In touch, in tune, and independent.
There's a message that says the date for exactly half of the year in 2025 is July the 2nd at 1 p.m. So apparently that's the exact date. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. So we still have some time to prepare ourselves. Whatever things you're supposed to finish by the first half of the year, you have until tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's 2 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. The DA says the debacle involving Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane and the dodgy appointment of boards to the sector education training authorities is not just a case of poor judgment, but a flagrant and deliberate attempt to deceive Parliament and the public. The party laid a criminal complaint against Nkabane at the Cape Town Central Police Station today, saying it won't tolerate ministers who lie and manipulate processes to protect ANC cronies. Lindsay Dentlinger was there.
The DA has already submitted a complaint against Minister Nobuhle Nkabane to Parliament's Ethics Committee and one to the Public Protector. But the party's Karaba Khachau, who exposed the questionable CETA board appointments, which then led to revelations about an alleged independent panel which selected them, says Nkabane must also face the might of the law.
So this situation deserves an all-hands-on-deck approach. While ethics and the Public Protector can find her guilty, the police must jail her. That's why we're here.
The DA says it will also be voting against the budget for the Higher Education Department, which is up for debate in both houses this week.
Not only has she shown little to no integrity, but we cannot trust her with the people's money at all. Because when you give her 19 billion rands of the people's money, she goes on a Christmas spree and gives it to her cadres of the ANC.
Under the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament Act, it's considered fraud to mislead or lie to Parliament and carries the sanction of a fine or a 3-year jail term. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
The bail application for 12 National Defence Force members is currently underway at the Randburg Magistrates Court, where they face a dozen charges including murder, kidnapping and theft. The group was arrested last month in connection with the murder of Hawks investigator Frans Matipa almost 2 years ago. Matipa was assassinated in August 2023 while investigating the alleged involvement of the SANDF Special Armed Forces in the abduction of 2 foreign nationals. Nogukaya Mtambo has the details.
The 12 accused appeared for a second time in court with their faces almost completely covered. Other than their role in the SANDF Special Armed Forces, the court has ruled that their identities will remain concealed pending an identity parade. In addition to murder and kidnapping, they're also accused of theft, fraud and making false statements. It's alleged the accused acted in common purpose in the murder of Hawks investigator Frans Matipa, who was believed to be on his way to a meeting with the Special Armed Forces amid a probe into their conduct. Matipa wanted answers about why the armed forces was at the Mall of Africa in Midrand when an alleged ISIS funder and his bodyguard were kidnapped in 2022 from the mall's parking lot. Proceedings are continuing. Nogukanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
Legal counsel for Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge has asserted that High Court Secretary Andy Swamengo did not fear authority as suggested by expert witness Lisa Vetten. Vetten is testifying before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal sitting in Sandton that Mengo may have experienced difficulty in rejecting the sexual advances made by the top judge given his seniority and influence. But advocate Muzi Sikakani has argued that the contrary may be true. During her evidence-in-chief, heard in January, Mengo testified that she had an altercation with the court manager in 2021. The judge's secretary has accused the Eastern Cape's highest judge of making unwanted sexual advances towards her between 2021 and 2022, leading to the tribunal's investigation. Vetten is being cross-examined before the tribunal on her interpretation of the exchanges between the pair on social media platforms platform WhatsApp between the alleged period. The gender expert previously conceded that she did not have sight of the entire record, but Tsikakane probed Vetten on whether her testimony would change if she was aware of Mengo's ability to challenge authority.
When you make an assumption that someone fears authority and therefore that's why you should not believe them when they say yes, you not believe them when they say this. When I give you an example that a particular complainant has exhibited a propensity different from your assumption, which is actually does not fear authority, would it not affect your analysis?
It would depend on on the information.
In the east of Johannesburg, the Germiston community where a 3-year-old child was mauled to death by a pack of dogs says it's living in fear as the animals still roam the area. On Friday, Sibongankone Hoyisana was attacked while walking through the Marathon informal settlement on the East Rand. While eyewitnesses could not identify the specific type of dogs that killed her, they've described them as brown mixed breeds. Resident Makosazane Dube says they want all the dogs in the area, stray and domesticated, to be removed for everyone's safety.
They are everywhere. Even us as adults, we are scared of them. The children cannot play outside freely because of the dogs. What we saw with that child, the dogs ate her as if they were like bears or apes.
Councillor Jeffrey Mtembu says he's in touch with the local SPCA for assistance.
The dogs are still around. The only thing is that why we don't find them here is that community members are stoning them whenever they see them. So, but in the evening, I'm told that they are coming, but some of the community members advise that they not need to be attacked so that at least we are able to get them in the same place.
And in Europe, sweltering heat conditions across parts of the continent have led to France, Spain, Italy, Portugal and Germany being placed under heat alerts. A red alert, the highest extreme heat warning, has been issued in France across 16 departments, including Paris, where the top of the Eiffel Tower is closed. 2 people have died in Italy as temperatures soar, while 50,000 people have been evacuated because of wildfires in western Turkey. Parts of Portugal and Spain recorded the highest ever June temperatures this week, as the mercury hit 46 degrees Celsius. In southeast England, temperatures could reach highs of 35 degrees today, but it will be more changeable for the rest of the UK. Meanwhile, according to the BBC, Greek authorities have warned of a very high wildfire risk across large parts of the country tomorrow, as soaring temperatures and strong winds create dangerous conditions. Gold's trading at $3,349.69 an ounce. The rand's at 17.58 to the dollar, at 24.18 to the pound, at 20.77 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $67.23 a barrel.
Leaving Alex heading towards Sunning Hill, Rivonia area, you can still expect about a 20-minute delay on the N3, N1 northbound between Marlborough Drive and Rivonia Road. Roodepoort traffic sluggish on Randfontein Road between Milestalker and Collett Avenue, and look out for those faulty traffic lights in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank.
A look at your weather. It's clear skies in Gauteng this afternoon. Temperatures have peaked at highs of 18 and 19 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The DA says the debacle involving Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane and the dodgy appointment of boards to the sector education training authorities is not just a case of poor judgment, but a flagrant and deliberate attempt to deceive Parliament and the public.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Eight minutes after 2 o'clock. It's the second and final hour of 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, and I'm so excited to get into it. We're going to be starting a brand new series for the month of July, and the series is on understanding civil cases and lawsuits, a very fascinating world for me, but I'm sure also for all of you who have found yourselves in situations where you wanted to sue and couldn't, or you've seen people have things happen to them where you're like, just sue? Well, let's talk about how those circumstances can come about and what options are available. So in our first episode, we're going to cover understanding how a lawsuit in South Africa works. We'll be joined by Saritha Venter for that conversation, who is a senior attorney and director at the IIE Varsity College Law Clinic's Inland Region. Then our car feature, we're going to talk about scratches and dents, what they really cost. Thando Ngibe, senior manager at Budget Insurance, will join us for that conversation. So get in touch with us, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702.
Series Edition.
Series Edition time. This is a brand new series for the month of July. We're going to be discussing understanding how a lawsuit works in our first episode on our series on understanding civil cases and lawsuits. Saritha Venter, who is a senior attorney and director of the IIE Varsity College Law Clinic's Inland Region, joins us for this conversation. But get your questions in early. The conversation will go quite quickly. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Saritha, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Relebogile. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
Sorry, I just stumbled over your name there. I thought I had a difficult name.
Listen, as long as we know we are being, we know exactly who we're talking to and everybody understands us, I'm pretty sure we will be fine. Let's kick off by, I'm going to start from a very different place than what I usually do in these types of conversations, which is to explain what it takes for a lawsuit to happen in South Africa. But because our biggest reference point I've discovered, if you're not in the legal fraternity, is what we see happening in the States, because lawsuits are a lot easier there. So can we start off with what is a civil difference between a civil case and a lawsuit, and then talk about the differences between the US and South Africa?
That is actually, I think one of the biggest challenges, or one of the big challenges that we have in practice, is people watch things like Suits and those movies and they see how it happens, and that's what the expectation that is created, right? So then they come to us here in practice, and when you explain how it actually happens, people are almost disappointed because they don't necessarily get their day in court tomorrow, but they might have to wait longer, or they don't get to directly speak up in court because their matter is not maybe that type of matter. So it's actually very important to clearly define what is a civil suit in terms of South African law.
Yes.
So the easy answer is basically it's pretty much anything that's not a criminal matter. In other words, if you're not prosecuted by state and you take a matter to court, that's most likely going to be a civil matter.
So just can I ask a question on that? Because you said anything that's not criminal, right? And the reason that I'm pausing to ask this specific question is, does that mean that there are, if there is a criminal matter, you can't sue for over and above the state taking up, the NPA taking up a criminal case against somebody?
Not in terms of criminal law. So, and this is, I think, what also confuses people a lot of times. Some crimes also have a civil application, if I can call it like that. So, for example, let's use fraud. You go to SAPS to go lay a complaint of fraud. The police investigate, they arrest someone, that person is prosecuted by the NPA, and that ultimately will result or can result in a sentence or a fine and a criminal record. But now you don't have your money back. So let's say R1 million was defrauded. You don't have your money back. How do you get that R1 million back? Because the civil justice system is not geared towards getting the money back. That's where civil law steps in. And you actually have remedies for fraud where you can claim your money back from the person who allegedly stole the money from you. And you don't necessarily have to wait for a criminal prosecution. You can proceed with civil, if you want to call it prosecution, and sue the person for your money back.
Did you mean that the criminal justice system is not geared to recoup money that people have lost, or did you mean the civil?
No, the criminal.
Okay,
So
the criminal, yes, because
justice-
you said
yes.
civil, yes. So,
Oh, my apologies.
Yes.
No, correct, yes.
okay, so in the matters where there is a loss of sorts, right? Because this could also be emotional distress, which we will get to as to why those aspects are very different in South Africa. But the civil route, if there was a criminal case as well, would be the route for you to recoup whatever you've lost. And those
Your
are
damages.
yes, your damages. And those are different courts that could be happening parallel with the same evidence and same all of these things, except the difference is in the one court it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's the NPA versus the person, whereas in the other court it's you being the applicant and the other one is the respondent.
Yes, or the plaintiff and the defendant, yes.
Okay.
So depending on the process that is followed, ultimately what you're trying to achieve through the matter, and civil matters or civil procedure, our civil courts are built to give remedies and relief to individuals. Now, whether it's a person or a company or a government organization, it is built there. The purpose is to obtain some form of relief from the court, not to punish necessarily, not to like in the instance of a criminal court. So that's why I say civil is actually a very broad scope.
I got you.
People actually probably get more in contact with civil matters than they do criminal. They just don't realize it.
So then here's a question. We know there are things like medical malpractice. I mean, many different companies advertise on the station. How different is a malpractice situation, or is that a category within civil?
That is a category. If you're claiming for damages based on medical malpractice, for example, that falls within the civil law. So that's what we categorize then. It falls under the bigger umbrella of civil litigation.
So then let's talk about small claims court. Can you then just define the difference between going to small claims court and a civil matter? Or maybe that's another category of a civil case.
Yes. 100% it is. This small claims court is built for smaller claims, so it follows the name. It is civil matters where you are claiming a form of damages or relief that the small claims court specifically deal with. It is normally for attorneys don't appear in the small claims court, and it is more for the public to be able to exercise their own rights. For example, the maximum claim that you can claim in the small claims court is a 20,000 Rand claim, and it's limited in what relief it can give. So that is still under the civil umbrella.
I got you. And of course, those courts just make it easy for a person to not have to hire a lawyer or something when it's like, my friend took my 12,000 Rand wig and she won't bring it back. So we quickly go there. Okay.
Exactly. And it's to promote access to justice, because for a smaller claim, it does not really make sense to appoint an attorney necessarily. You might not get attorneys who want to work for such a small amount. It does not add up. The expenses and the amount of investment that you have to put into it just maybe does not add up. So it is a public-friendly court. The processes are public-friendly. You don't need an attorney to go and represent yourself there.
So I'm going to speak from my perspective with this question, being a upper middle class South African who would say, if somebody is not paying me my 50,000 Rand, right, and I can't go to small claims court because the amount is too big, but 50,000 Rand is actually too small for civil, not because the amount does not qualify, but because the effort for 50,000 might seem futile. Can you chat to us about, when you usually advise clients or what you have seen before in terms of amounts that are 20,000 and above? Because I almost feel like there is a gap where it's like there's no point. You have to just cut your losses.
Yeah. So there are alternatives to litigation. Our courts or the legal practice is kind of developing towards alternative dispute resolution. And I'm always in favor of alternative dispute resolution. So that is an alternative means of resolving a dispute. Ultimately, any litigation is a dispute. And some of them may well be able to be resolved through either negotiation or mediation or arbitration instead of approaching a court. People are quite quick to go see an attorney for relief, but they don't necessarily try first to make contact with the opposing party to see if they can't negotiate and discuss the matter and resolve it in that way. So the legal system is starting slowly but surely starting to go towards alternative dispute resolution, where certain rules have been put in place where we have to consider as attorneys mediation, for example, before we proceed with any matter, no matter the monetary value. And if you don't want to proceed with mediation, you have to give reasons for it. So alternative dispute resolution, I strongly believe, is an alternative. Approaching a community leader, approaching if it's within a specific community or within a specific culture, there are a lot of heads of the communities who actually assist to resolve these types of disputes.
So are you saying that if a person has some situation which is above 20,000 Rand, before they even go the route of contacting a lawyer, which already becomes a hard cost unless, you have an uncle who's willing to say, don't bother, or whatever the case may be, you can approach somebody to try and speak to assist in mediating. Now, I want to get to the crux of maybe what I can see is possibly a massive challenge in a country like ours, which is that if you are a David and you're surrounded by Goliaths, right? And you now send this email that says, guys, can we meet to discuss? And they just, they just ghost you. How would a mediation even become an option to you? Because I've been in situations where people just ghost you, and then the only time they respond is via a lawyer's letter that says, if you don't respond within, 21 days, then I am going to take you to court. And then they will sometimes call your bluff, which, leaves many people in those situations where it's like, all right, if we're doing this, you better be prepared for a roller coaster of years and bills.
Yeah. That is, unfortunately, I think that is a problem in a lot of jurisdictions, not only ours. But what I do know that I have experienced myself in practice is the David and Goliath situation it is big, it is a problem. But we have a lot of forums that you can actually approach for free that can assist. You don't have to necessarily approach a court. And that's, again, where ADR steps in. So, yes, you say, I want to negotiate and mediate, but Goliath says no. There are, depending on the type of matter, depending on the sector that you're in, there is most likely an ombudsman or a forum that you can approach who can actually assist and request, who can demand mediation. Now I'm talking about the Consumer Protection Tribunal, the National Credit Regulator, the CSOS. There are so many forums that actually, if you just go do a little bit of research before you start to litigate, those research, a lot of the time we move away from litigation into those forums because they are faster, cheaper. The client might not necessarily have the time or the finances to support to fund a big litigation procedure. And those forums do actually assist in those circumstances. So the problem is that clients don't always know this. Attorneys sometimes don't even know what are the forums out there because there are so many.
Yes. And that's why many of these bodies encourage people to only use companies for services that are with them, because then there's some jurisdiction over them as opposed to some random. I mean, we have a consumer rights feature. We deal with these issues all the time where ombudsmen, be it for rental agents and vehicles, and the list goes on. Okay, so in terms of the circumstances that would arise for a person that you would then say, I think let us consider, sending a letter to begin the process for a lawsuit, even though the hope, as you've already shared, is ideally you want a company or whoever it is that's being written to respond within X amount of days, wanting to talk as opposed to going the route. But under what circumstances, and maybe we can start off by defining what damages are. We know the monetary ones are very obvious. So there is a direct loss with some kind of paper that says X amount, right? But there are other damages that exist, like emotional distress and those kinds of things. Can you chat to us about the damages and how South African courts treat them? Let's say emotional distress, and not necessarily things like loss of income or I can no longer have access to X, Y, and Z. The one that's difficult to quantify, which is the emotional distress and all of those other things.
Yes. So in South Africa, we do have different types of damages, like you've correctfully or rightfully pointed out. And depending on the type of matter, you may or may not be able to claim the different types of damages. So the two damages that you need to differentiate between is patrimonial damages and non-patrimonial damages. In short, your patrimonial damages are things like your medical costs, loss of income, costs of repairs, future loss of income. That is something that you can quantify, that you can put into monetary terms. But then you get non-patrimonial damages, okay? That is pain and suffering, something that you can't necessarily put a price tag on. Your pain and suffering, disfigurement, loss of amenities of life, injury to personality, for example. Those are the difficult
like
ones.
reputational damage and things like that.
Reputational, for defamation or something like that, okay? So those are the things where if I say, how much is it going to cost to fix your reputation? You can't really put a price tag on it. And that is sometimes the difficult ones to quantify. Now, again, depending on the type of matter, depending on what type of relief you're looking for, it depends on your amounts depend. So, for example, the RAF, where you claim for the medical costs of a surgery that you sustained or you had to go through because you were in a motor vehicle accident, there you get a bill from the hospital, you can claim that. But now you might be traumatized from it. So if that goes towards pain and suffering or loss of amenities of life, how do you quantify that? So the RAF actually has a table that they kind of have developed over the years, for example, that will say that this is how much we'll pay for this is how much we can, because they've experienced over the years the type of claims. If you suffer pain, if you've got a claim for pain and suffering against someone, you're going to have to go and quantify that claim and put an amount on it.
And that's difficult because, like you say, and let's use a specific example. Let's say somebody calls in on the radio station live, they lie to my producer, and then they start spewing hateful things about me, let's say, hypothetically, and then I'm not at work for 3 weeks, I felt bullied, blah, 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 blah. And now, how do we quantify? So an example of quantifying could be, well, each day that I'm here, I'm usually paid X amount. Or is the quantifying that I have to say, I went to see my psychiatrist, I went to see my blah, 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 this is how much it costs. Because to me, it almost sounds like the emotional distress still would require some kind of a receipt, as opposed to me saying, I think that distress was R1 million worth of distress and pain and suffering.
Yes. So normally there we would rely on experts to do an assessment, and you get, for example, psychologists who specialize in it, in the quantification of non-patrimonial damages. You get actuaries and accountants and people like that who specialize in those type of quantifications. So that would probably, if a client came to me for that type of claim, that's where I would start, is how do we quantify? Who can we appoint? Who can we get? Because that's expert level of appointed. There are no fixed formulas, unfortunately. There's no formula for us to follow. So it's a case-by-case situation, and certain factors depending again on the case, on the damages, on the what's happened, it will have to be taken on a case-by-case basis. And for that, you are going to need experts who specialize in these types of matters.
I've got you there. What I'm going to do, because I see messages coming in that won't give us enough time to actually go to them, that we can pick up next week. But what would you like to close off with on this conversation around understanding how lawsuits work in South Africa?
I think the most important thing is for people to educate them on their rights before engaging in lawsuits or before engaging an attorney or legal representative. It's so important for you to own your matter and to own your right. And you can only do that if you have educated yourself on South African specific rights. AI is a great tool to use. However, it's not always South Africa specified. So educate yourself and then go seek legal assistance while knowing the attorney is there to help you, but it's also, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility.
I've got you completely, Saritha. Thank you so much for chatting to us on 702 Afternoons. We will have an episode 2 and continue on this section of understanding how a lawsuit works in South Africa. And I'm sure many of you have still quite a few questions. We will touch on the processes and how to begin. And maybe we'll open up the lines as well to all of you to sort of do an on-air asking, hey, is this worth even trying to claim something? It's 2:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. Deputy Defence Minister Bantu Holomisa says the military is unfit to defend the country if attacked due to outdated equipment and underfunding of the defence force. However, Holomisa says the country is currently not under any threat of being attacked due to the country's military conducting a regular threats analysis to determine whether the country is at risk of attack from foreign or domestic enemies. The ANC says it believes the criminal complaint the DA laid against Higher Education Minister Relebogile Mabotja is part of the party's public campaign to challenge the axing of DA MP Andrew Whitfield. The DA laid a criminal complaint against Nkabane today at the Cape Town Central Police Station. Nkabane is alleged to have lied to the Higher Education Portfolio Committee in Parliament about her questionable appointments to the CETA board. And more than 14 million of the world's most vulnerable people, a third of them children, could die because of US President Donald Trump's global aid cuts. According to a study published in the Lancet Journal, the risks to low and middle-income countries are comparable to a global pandemic or a major armed conflict. The report estimates that USAID funding had prevented more than 90 million deaths in developing countries between 2001 and 2021. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 3 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Leaving Alexandra, heading towards the Sunning Hill, Rivonia area, expect about a 20-minute delay on the N3, N1 northbound. From Marlborough Drive all the way to Rivonia Road. There's also slow-moving traffic leaving Edenvale, heading towards Bedford View. That's the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange. Also slow-moving traffic in the Selby area. That's heading into the Joburg CBD on Main Reef Road. That's approaching Church Street. Look out for those faulty traffic lights. Rand Park Ridge at Beyersnode and the N1 traffic lights also not working in Edenvale at Modderfontein Road and the N3. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
My name is Sipati. I'm from Boxback. What I love about 702 is that it exposes us to the global community. So at the moment, if you are locally in South Africa or Africa, you get exposed to the US, the UK because of the international exposures that we have. So thank you very much, 702, for exposing some of us who have never been out there in the world, but we see the global world, the global community through your eyes. Thank you, 702. Big ups.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts,
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Winter's here, and so are the season's hottest deals. Whether you're powering through early mornings or cozying up on cold nights, Takealot is your one-stop winter shop for heaters, appliances, winter skincare, and everyday essentials. Shop smart, stay warm, and make winter your season with Takealot.
Rise to the challenge in Climb and Conquer, Betway's latest 50 million Rand prize giveaway. Climb our leaderboards until 27 July with bets on sports, slots, table, crash games, and more. Earn points for every bet and multiply them by betting every day. Reach for the top spots and stand to drive away in one of 8 brand new cars. Plus, you could win constant cash and bonus prizes. Only at Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to participate. For gambling counseling, call SARGF on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp 076 675 0710.
Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 is looking for a small business owner that talks a big game and delivers even bigger results. So, if you're a small business that consistently dares to innovate, expand, and better your bottom line, you could walk away with 200,000 Rand cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package. So, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za. Then every day this week from 6 a.m., catch 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa to find out if you're a finalist in the Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Coming up
on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Perlman. John, happy 1st of July. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Earlier on, I was asking everybody how they're feeling about entering the second half of the year. Are there any goals that you've had to readjust? Maybe one said buy a new car, but you changed it to buy a new carpet.
Yeah, somebody also sent me that yesterday. We were chatting about it on the show. No, not really. I mean, I planned this year to do a whole kind of state of my health thing, not because there's anything wrong with me, but I wanted to have certain key benchmarks and indicators reset. But I haven't got round to that yet, but I really need to do it. Apart from that, pretty much rolling as I planned.
So you keeping everything on the list, you're not adjusting anything?
So I didn't really make a list. I have lists all over the place. There's a beautiful song, actually. I can't remember who the writer is, but it's the first line is, I have the world's worst memory. And then a woman singer goes on to say, I've made a list of all the things I need to do, but where is the list?
Where is it?
Yeah.
I'm also one of those.
Song, but I'm not sure.
I also wonder where that list is for myself. What's coming up on your show today?
Well, I had a list, but here we go. So there's a very important story that's been produced by journalist Eufrida Ho about the enormous amounts and the increases in the money allocated for security at Gauteng hospitals and clinics. And there are a lot of questions being asked suggesting that this stuff cannot be explained by the needs. And it comes at a time where there isn't money for nurses, there's no money for doctors, there's no money for equipment. But suddenly for security, the budgets have in some cases more than doubled at certain facilities. We'll look into that more closely after 4 o'clock. We are going to be asking this question about the row going on between the DA and the ANC. What about the other parties in the GNU? And for example, General Bantu Holomisa, leader of the UDM, has been starting to speak out on that and say, hang on a bit, you two don't just get to have this stand-up knockdown fight in a political framework that we're also part of. So we'll take a closer look at that after 5.
By the way, what was it that was taken down by the DA yesterday on Twitter? I saw people talking about it, but by then the tweet had been deleted. Was it a poll?
Not a clue. I've no idea.
Okay, because I saw people busy laughing. Somebody let me know if you saw a poll that was tweeted by the DA, but I saw people going on to say this poll was not even up 24 hours and it went down similar to Floyd Shivambu's poll which was around should we open a new party? And the moment that they were not getting the responses that they supposedly wanted, the poll went. So apparently my producer's telling me the poll was the DA asking if Tshwane is well run. So I'm assuming a lot of people said nope, and then...
Well, no. I mean, their problem would be if they said yes, because they're no longer in charge of Tshwane. So...
unless people then answered yeah. Okay, I need to find out. So people are answering yes. That's why they. Oh my gosh!
I'm speculating. Never saw the poll, so I wouldn't have known that it came down because I never knew it was up.
Spicy, spicy. Okay, what else?
Which is handy. Ignorance is a good state. And then Rwanda and DRC peace deal signed in the United States, but a lot of questions are being asked about whether the economic arrangements in this deal, very much driven by the US around access to minerals, is covering over the fact that they haven't dealt with the causes of a war that's been going on, after all, for 30 years. So we'll talk about that. We've got an expert joining us, excellent person from about 10 to 4.
All right, that is 702 Drive with John Pullman coming up from 3 to 6 p.m.
702. The car feature.
Time for the car feature on 702 afternoons. And in our car feature for today, we are chatting about the costs of scratches and small dents, and what they really, really do cost, and share your stories and experiences. 011 8830 702 in the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. We're joined in this conversation by Thando Ngibe, Senior Manager at Budget Insurance. Thando, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Relebogile, and welcome. Hello to 702 listeners.
Yes, you can welcome them too as well, right? It's our home together now.
I love that.
Okay, so let's talk about scratches and dents. And I never want to assume everybody can tell the difference. So from an insurance perspective, how are scratches and dents differentiated in that world?
Yes, so I think maybe if I just give you a sentence for each. You know, a scratch would usually be defined as a thin or shallow lengthy mark on the top coat of the vehicle's paint. So that's what we'd call a scratch. And then you normally have a dent, which is a hollow indent on the surface of the vehicle. So the difference is that the scratches usually really get into that paint layer, and then the dents usually actually get into the surface of the vehicle without necessarily damaging the paint.
I got you. Okay, so why is it important to know these costs? I see many people who are insured driving around with little dents and scratches on their vehicles. I'm probably one of them. Yeah, I'm one of them.
So yes, the reason it's important there's two things. It's important to fix these scratches when they happen. And if you are in a position where you can afford to fix them, you want to do that. But otherwise, there is specific covers that are available in the market that deal specifically with scratch and dents. And let me tell you why it's important. You know, cosmetic damage on a vehicle, which is what we're talking about, devalues the value of the vehicle at the point of selling. So what happens is that the dealers that offer to buy your vehicle need to get that vehicle looking as close as possible to showroom condition. And whatever money they have to spend after purchasing your vehicle to fix those scratches and dents, they will deduct that from the offer that they make you. So inevitably, you actually get less money for your vehicle if it has multiple scratches and dents.
Why do you think it is that people don't head over and repair some of these scratches and dents immediately if they do have access? I'll speak for myself to say sometimes the scratch or the dent, if I look at it and say this is probably going to be the same amount as my excess, or it's not that big of a deal. I'm just also not trying to put too many dents on my relationship with my insurer. What are the reasons that you've also heard people speak of?
I think you've touched on the most important one. I think most people, when the scratch or the dent happens or the chip, people tend to think, oh, geez, I've got an insurance policy which has got generally an excess that is quite a sizable amount, and I don't want to ruin my relationship with my insurer. Now, that is very true as far as your comprehensive insurance cover goes, because that is there to protect you usually from the bigger incidents, the accidents, the thefts, etc., where we have to replace parts and do big repairs. These products that we are speaking about, which I think some people might not know of, are specifically designed only to deal with these covers and don't affect what happens with your comprehensive insurance policy. So it is understood when these products are made that customers are going to get a lot of scratches, chips, and dents. Therefore, it does not impact whatever is going on your main policy, which would be your comprehensive vehicle insurance policy.
Okay, and I think many people do sadly find themselves in some of those situations. Is there a risk that dents and scratches outside of the windscreen, and I'm not sure, you'll have to clarify if you speak of scratches on a windscreen in the same way or you only refer to them as cracks, but is it possible that leaving them can actually make them worse?
Sure. So when we're dealing particularly with scratches, I think there is an opportunity that when the paint gets damaged, it exposes that metal underneath to moisture and to oxygen. And those are really the ingredients for rust. And if you're in the coastal areas, that problem is exacerbated because the salty air and the high humidity in those regions can accelerate that rust. So unlike in a windscreen where a chip can become a crack, in this particular space, what we normally find is the risk of getting rust onto your vehicle, which is more expensive to fix later down the line.
I did not know that at all. Excuse me. I did not know at all that scratch would expose it to start rusting quickly. Just in terms of, you're saying that you want your car to be in its best condition. If a person has already though decided that I'm going to be keeping this car forever, they would probably have less incentive or interest to do that.
Yes, that is definitely the case. We normally see that with consumers. But I think it's important to highlight there, Relebogile, that even though you might not want to spend a lot of money because you're going to keep the car for a long time, but not all of these damages actually require paint to fix. So we usually see that some of the small surface scratches that happen on the metal parts and plastic parts of a vehicle can actually be polished out. So there are other solutions for people out there. So if you take it to a car wash or to a place that polishes vehicles, always ask them to have an attempt. And usually they're quite good at telling you what they can just polish out. And then in that way, it's a much more cost-effective way to still take care of your vehicle without spending too much money.
All right, we're going to take a break, Tando. When we come back, we take all of your questions and calls. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The National Lottery keeps creating winners, just like the lucky Powerball Plus jackpot winner who won over 25 million rand on Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 49 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday, and you could be next. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusher, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
Hi, I'm Komodo, PG Glass Technician. At PG Glass, we keep your windscreen chip-free and crystal clear.
Choose PG Glass, quality you can trust. Visit pg.co.za.
702.
The car feature.
12 minutes to 3 o'clock. We continue with our car feature on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. We are chatting about the real cost of scratches and dents with Thando Ngibe, Senior Manager at Budget Insurance, on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. And now we open up the lines. We've got a voice note.
Relebogile, my car is scratched. The scratch is, a R1 coin. That's how big the scratch is. But it's okay, the surface level paint is off. But it's like a R1 coin. And the quotation to fix that was 4,700. Does that make sense? Why is it so expensive? 4,700. Tau. Yo, I know. Now, how must I not have how can I have a relationship with my insurer with a 4,700 quotation for a 50-cent scratch? You, my goodness, Sam.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thando, maybe chat to us about when vehicles go for assessments. I'm sure majority of the time customers are shocked at how expensive it is.
Yes, Relebogile, we see it on a daily basis. And I think maybe this paint example is a good one to explain some of the reasons why it is so expensive. So let's say you drive a red vehicle. When you come into my panel beating shop, I don't have that specific paint for your vehicle ready and waiting for you, because these vehicles have got different paint codes. That is how we identify the different colors. So usually if you've owned the car for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on where you park the vehicle and the sun damage, it also happens that even your original paint code is no longer accurate for your car because it has experienced damage because of the sun. What then needs to happen is that the panel beater, which they usually would have a painting department, those guys would have to mix multiple paints in order to get to the exact paint of your vehicle. And that is a very costly exercise. Paintwork, vehicle parts goes up every single year. And I think most customers who don't deal in that industry are always shocked as to why it is so expensive. But that's some of the realities that are out there.
I love that you mentioned the color matching because that is quite a big deal. Whereas for drivers, you just assume how red is red, green is green, but it becomes very specific. But outside of, for example, the color matching, what are some of the other things that you can share with us are a part of that process of repairing a scratch that, like you said, has gone beyond the paint level?
Sure. So I think, again, it will just depend on what is going on with that particular vehicle. So another example is the panel beaters will do their best to keep costs low by stocking the most common colors of paint so that they are ready to mix. But if for example, you arrive and they don't have a color for you, it is not as if because the scratch is a R1 coin, they can from their supplier order the amount of paint you need to paint a R1 coin area. They need to order the smallest bottle they can find, which could be 300 mils, 400 mils, in order to do the mixing process, and then they can only fix that little portion for you. And they might never be able to use that paint again. So beyond how expensive it is to just match, it's also expensive to buy small amounts of paint because you're not always certain that you'll be able to use that paint again, and that increases the costs.
Okay, and I think that makes sense. In terms of after the, let's say, the filing down, if I can use that term that us lay people would understand, and then doing the painting, there are other layers obviously that need to go on top of that.
Yes, so what we find with vehicles is that there's a lot of prep work that goes into painting. So as you were mentioning, the filing down process where they have to prepare the car for paint, and after they prepare that vehicle for painting, only then can the painting start. And I think what's important to mention here, Relebogile, is a concept that they usually refer to as blending. Depending on where the dent is, if, for example, the dent is on your door close to another part, like a fender, sometimes they need to paint across both areas in order to get that color matching, looking the way it should be. Because sometimes if you just paint one specific small spot, no matter how good you are at trying to match that paint, it becomes very visible that some work was done on that one point. So you normally end up needing to paint a bigger area than just the scratch in order to make sure that the paint blends in well. Otherwise, the customer is not going to be satisfied with the job if they can see where you've worked on. They want the car to look the way it looked before, which means you usually end up covering a way bigger area than just the damage to the vehicle.
We've got another voice note.
Relebogile, mine is not insurance related, but when I sold my previous vehicle, I took it into a repair shop to touch up the scratches and dents. When I traded in that car, I received tenfold back in what it cost me to repair that scratches and dents. So it was worthwhile for me to spend that money to repair the scratches and dents because I got it back 10 times on the price that the dealer gave me. So I think it's a very good thing, and it makes your car look better and you feel much prouder of your car. Theo, Pretoria.
Hi, Relebogile. Yo, car crashes. So my car was hit by a hail, but then the damage is just on a bonnet. On a bonnet. Luckily, the sunroof is fine. So I claim with my insurer. And then the quotation comes back as 24,000. 24,000 just to fix the bonnet. Then I went to these other guys in Pretoria West. I said, guys, here's my car. Can you assess and give me a quotation? The quotation was 6,000. So why the insurer quotation was 24,000? Really?
All right, so Tando, maybe help us understand why it is that the preferred suppliers of insurance companies are sometimes more expensive than other people.
Sure, I definitely would love to explain that to you. So there are multiple factors that create that condition. So one of them is that insurance companies would usually use panel beaters that have to meet certain criteria. So for example, when you buy a vehicle from your manufacturer will give licensing to certain panel beaters to have permission to work on that vehicle. And for panel beaters to obtain that licensing, they have to buy very expensive equipment. So if you look at their spray booth area, it is very expensive. Some of this equipment costs millions. So essentially, the operating costs of a panel shop that intends to do work for an insurance company is much more expensive than if Tando opens up his own operation with the intention to only service, his own customers. Because there, the requirement for me to have all the certification, all the equipment, for me to have a qualified spray painter, a qualified panel beater, I would not have that requirement. But unfortunately, the guys on the insurance panel have that requirement, and as a result, it costs them more to run their businesses. Hence, you would normally find that when it comes to quotes, their quotes can sometimes be higher than what you are able to find if you go and you search for your own supplier.
And that makes sense because obviously insurance companies want to retain the best services for their clients. So if a person wants to go out and fix it themselves, it is at their own risk. Tando, thank you so much for chatting to us about this. And there's so many questions that were coming through on this, and we'll revisit them in another car feature.
Calling all football fans. Score goals galore with Hollywood bets in a super football showdown. The finest clubs in the world will go head-to-head to be crowned the best of the best. Ready for your chance to strike it big? Get in on the thrilling action and take a shot at a share of 100,000 Rand in cash or betting vouchers. Bet 10 Rand or more on any club World Cup fixture between June and July 2025. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Relebogile is on X at Relebogile M.
I'm seeing all your messages about my voice deteriorating live on air. I started feeling sick yesterday and I felt fine enough to come in. I will definitely be heading straight home and taking care of myself. Somebody's saying on the WhatsApp line, Relebogile, please take a day off. I'm your biggest fan and a voiceover artist. It's so hard to listen to you. Please don't be a hero. Tomorrow, a day off. That is an order. And all of you are saying ginger tea. I've literally got my ginger tea in hand right now. And sometimes this is what happens in the work that we do that requires our voices. I wanted to read one last message with regards to the second half of the year, saying, sister of mine, the first half of 2025 was filled with many lessons, both good and character building ones. I can with conviction say that my faith in God has kept me sane. I declare that my latter will be greater than my former. Natasha from Westbury. And I wish that for all of you. May you have a spectacular start to the second half of 2025. It's 3:00.
This is EWN.
The ANC probes higher education minister over CETA board appointment and cultural nuances under the spotlight in sexual assault case at the Judicial Conduct Tribunal.